Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Cromwell and I work in the technology department, and I'm here to get our webinar started for our Peirce course selection guide.
Good evening, Peirce families. My name is Joe D'Antonio, the principal of Peirce Middle School, and I want to welcome you to our Rising 7th and 8th grade course selection night. Our goal tonight is to be able to offer all the information that you need in a very clear, concise way in order to walk your student through the course selection process. As Chris Cromwell mentioned earlier, we will use the question and answer feature through this webinar presentation, and we will do our best to get back to folks right away. If there's an answer that we aren't able to identify, we will certainly circle back to you within a day or two with that information. I'm going to do a few introductions here for our panel. Joining us from our counseling department is Mrs. Carol DeMarco. Also joining us tonight is Dr. Phil Mattia. He will serve as the building scheduler, and he's currently serving as the 7th grade administrator. Also joining us tonight is Mrs. Sandra Bradley. She's our community engagement specialist. Chris Cromwell, Mr. Chris Cromwell, who you already spoke with initially, Dr. Mary Beth Clifton, who is from our instructional technology coordinating team, Dr. Judy K. Maxwell, who is the 8th grade assistant principal and our testing coordinator, and Senorita Jocelyn Kubiyama, who is going to serve as our translation and interpreter. We are doing a simultaneous translation. So we will be presenting this information in both English and Spanish at the same time. In a minute, I'm going to ask our panelists to turn their cameras off, and then I'm going to turn the program over to Dr. Mattia, who will begin with the course selection night. Dr. Mattia, you are up.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight on a cold, maybe pre-snow day here in January. Hopefully, you'll be able to find the next maybe about half hour or so of information to be convenient, helpful, and easy to understand. With that, I'm going to share my screen, and we will jump into the presentation. Okay, slide this around here. All right. Okay, so here we are tonight. This is for 6th and 7th grade parents, as your students, your children will be 7th and 8th grade students next year. So if you're one of those people, you're in the right place. Our middle school course description guides will be pushed out on student laptops. However, you also are able to find them on the Peirce website and on the Westchester Area School District website. Again, this presentation will be available, the slideshow will be available, so you can click through these links live when they go up there. Oops. Here are some convenient dates that you should look for as we approach course selection and teacher recommendation time. So shortly, next week already, we're going to have our teachers making recommendations beginning on February 1st through February 11th. Teachers will likely have conversations with students about where they're recommended, why they're recommending for these leveled classes, which we will talk about shortly. After we clean that up, make sure that we're in double recommendations and make sure it looks clean, then on February 14th through the 25th, students can go in with their parents and they can make their course selections at that time for their electives. They can also make some changes to course levels that they were not comfortable with, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. When those changes occur, March 7th through 18th, we make those changes. You're going to actually send those with a course waiver form that we'll look at a little bit later in the presentation. Once we get kind of through the bulk of those changes, know that the deadline is March 23rd Deadline being March 23rd, so that we can prepare to make sure we're accurately and effectively staffed for next school year. It is a pretty tight timeline, but it has proven effective to make sure that we're getting students the courses that they want to be in and make sure that we have the teachers in front of them to be able to teach those courses. So again, here are your dates, February 1st through the 11th. We have this teacher recommendation window. You can see that the recommendations will be made in English, math, reading, or world language, which we will talk about in a little bit, science for 7th grade teachers only, and social studies for 7th grade teachers only, as the 8th grade science and social studies are leveled courses where they are not leveled in 7th grade. Talking about leveling, here you'll see that the levels in the core courses.
Bradley, you're muted. Okay, we're good. Go ahead.
That's all right. Here we have the leveling in the core courses of English, reading in 6th through 8th grade for English, 6th and 7th grade for reading, mathematics 6 to 8, and science and social studies only in 8th grade. We have 3 different levels designed to challenge students based on their learning ability and needs. And we're going to look at those levels briefly now. They do align. A couple years ago, we made sure that they aligned closely to what our high school's rigor levels were noted as. So here you will see those 3 levels. We have grade level, we have honors, and we have accelerated honors. As you move on the continuum from left to right, they're all on grade level, but you'll see an increase in pace and a bit of an increase in rigor as you move from left to right across. And you can take a glance at those and read those on your own. I'm not going to read through all those bullets, so I'll pause here for a moment. Again, this will be available as a PowerPoint or slideshow on our website, and this presentation will also be available later. Moving on to our next slide here. Sorry for the delay. So here's the process for our students. 6th grade academic teachers in the areas of reading, math, and English are going to make recommendations for 7th grade. The 7th grade academic teachers in the areas of math, English, science, social studies, which is history in 7th grade, and world language, if applicable, will make the recommendations for 8th grade. For both students and parents going to 7th and 8th grade, these recommendations will be able to be viewed on February 14th, beginning on February 14th, and that extends through the 25th to make selections. If students' parents to choose to follow those recommendations, nothing more needs to be done. If a student parent would like to change what was recommended, we're going to have a course change form submitted to the counselor. Again, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So placement decisions. Our goal here is to make sure that students are placed in the best area to have them see success, to be challenged, but to have success. So we're going to look at multiple data points. PSSA has been a fluid type of thing recently with how we've been in and out of school through the pandemic. So if available, we'll use that. We definitely use the student performance in class. That's the near and dear, the best data point we have at this point. And then, of course, teacher recommendations based on what they've seen in class day in and day out. If we have additional data points, we're also going to use that. We'll make the best placement decisions possible. We want to make sure that students are seeing success, but also being appropriately challenged. I think I'm going to pause right there, Mr. D'Antonio. Was there anything that came up through the first series of slides that we can touch on?
Yes, Yes, Dr. Mattia. One question we received is, can parents, students choose classes that they're not recommended for? So the example would be choosing French or Spanish over reading, if that is recommended. And to answer that question is that students and parents would be able to make that selection. So if they weren't recommended for reading, but the family feels like that's the best fit for the student, they would submit a course waiver form that would go to their counselor to make that change.
That was the only question at this point?
Yes.
Okay, well then we will carry on. Thanks, Mr. D. All right, so courses where students don't have to make any selections are going to be in these courses in 7th grade. So 7th grade health, phys ed, art, computer science, energy communication technology, which is a tech ed course, and family consumer science 7. Those will automatically be placed in student schedules. In 8th grade, there's going to be two subjects where you don't need to select anything, and that's 8th grade health and phys ed. So here we go with rising 7th graders in English. These are the courses that are offered in 7th grade, moving from 6th to 7th grade. You have accelerated honors, honors, and grade level. Again, going back to those different rigor levels that we mentioned earlier. Mathematics is very similar. You're going to have accelerated honors, and grade level. Now here we also have Math Plus 7, which is a 2-day unified arts, a 2-day class that takes place of a unified arts block. And that's a specific situation where we would communicate that with students that perhaps are currently in a Math Plus class, or that we feel may need to move in 7th grade and have a little more layers of support. Science, there are no levels in science in 7th grade, so you pop right into a 7th grade science course. Same thing with social studies, which would be history in 7th grade. There's no levels, and your child would just land in a 7th grade history class. Now, when it comes to reading or world language, to kind of answer the question a little bit that Mr. D'Antonio commented on or answered, depending on where you are with taking reading, if you're moving into a potential for world language, then this might be the last opportunity for you to choose reading, because if a student goes into world language in 7th grade, they don't go back into reading in 8th grade. So students will be recommended by their current reading teacher in 6th grade for either reading or a world language. If recommended for a world language, as Mr. D'Antonio said on the other side of that, if you're recommended for reading, you can move into a world language if parents and students feel that's where they like to be. Similarly, if a student is recommended for a world language, they can still choose to go into a reading class instead. Our reading courses in 7th grade, reading through time 7 honors, our reading through time 7 grade level, or reading plus 7. The reading plus 7 would be based on recommendations from our reading specialist. We offer 2 world languages in 7th grade, which would be Spanish 1 or French 1. Now, logistically, to select a world language or a reading, it gets a little tricky based on the portal. The parent portal that we have is a little bit specific with how we have to do things. So if a student is recommended for reading, they're going to see a reading class in the parent portal listed as part of the schedule. You would not select a world language at that time. Even if you wanted to take a world language, you would submit a waiver form, and then we would change the world language. We ask that you don't select a world language at that point, because then in that student schedule, we're going to have to clean up both a world language and a reading and figure out, well, which one is it? So if you're recommended for a reading class, we're going to submit a waiver to move up to world language if that's what you'd like to do, which is perfectly fine. However, if your student is not recommended for a reading, then they have the open option. That's a de facto world language recommendation. So if no reading appears on the recommendations, the child can pick French 1, Spanish 1, or reading through time 7 honors. They have the option then to pick which one of those that they would like. So again, here are the 2 world languages that we offer in 7th grade, Spanish 1 or French 1. Again, high proficient or advanced in reading if the scores are available, depending on how things have gone. Grades of A's and B's in English and reading classes in sixth grade are really a good indicator for success to be recommended for a world language. The reading classes that we offer, again, reading through time, 7 honors and grade level, both teaching the same things. It just happens to be that if we're taking a reading course, I'm going to slow down just a little bit, so we can make sure that our Spanish-speaking folks can understand what I'm saying. So speaking a little fast. So again, reading, there are 2 options. It's the reading through time, which is a grade level or an honors course, or the reading plus class, which is recommended through our reading specialists. And you can see here the difference. We'll look to our interpreter. We
Dr.
feel a little bit
Mattia,
better?
can I interrupt for a break right here?
Of course you can.
We'll see if we can answer the question that came in, Mr. D'Antonio and Mrs. Bradley. We're going to try to connect you with our other Spanish interpreter. If you could call her on her cell phone, I'll put it in the chat to you. We're going to try to speak through that and try to figure out our other technical difficulties.
Okay. All right, Mr. D'Antonio, I'll give it to you then.
So the question we have is, what classes would be missed if a student needs learning support in reading or English? So if a student was going to receive in sixth grade reading plus in sixth grade, that they would not be attending geography is the course that they would miss. In seventh grade, if a student was receiving learning support or taking reading, they are still going to have access to all their courses. They simply would not have the world language option open to them.
Okay. Were there any more questions in the queue there, Mr. D'Antonio?
Nope. That's the 2 questions.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Bradley, are we okay to go on your end? Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes, that we are okay.
Mrs. Bradley, make sure you unmute. There we go. And give me a thumbs up in the Spanish channel if we're okay.
All right. I think I'm going to pop over to our 8th grade recommendations. Now, as students move through middle school, we afford them more opportunities for class selections. But we'll talk about the recommendation process now, as it is leveled in some more areas. English, this is similar to 7th grade, where you have those 3 levels: accelerated honors, honors, and grade level. Similarly, in 8th grade to 7th grade, you have your geometry 8.
Mrs. Bradley, if you put your phone on speakerphone and keep, yep, you got it. If you just put it on speakerphone, then we'll hear it. Thank you.
Okay, so similarly in mathematics, to the 7th grade mathematics, geometry 8 would be your accelerated honors course, algebra 1 grade 8 would be the honors course, and pre-algebra 8 would be the grade level course. Math plus 8 is again afforded to those students needing a little bit of additional support in math, and that would come through current class of Math plus 7 or a recommendation from the math teacher and math specialist to move into that in 8th grade. Now, science in 8th grade is only leveled in 8th grade. As I just said earlier, 7th grade did not have levels. So the 7th grade teachers will complete the recommendations for one of 2 options: Science 8 honors or Science 8 grade level. Very similar to that is going to be our 8th grade social studies course, which is another history course. It's leveled in 8th grade. It was not in 7th grade. And the 7th grade teachers will make those recommendations. Now we come to the opportunity for world language or reading. The course in 8th grade for reading is Reading and Writing for Life, and it's a grade level course. You'll see here the different things that are covered in our Reading and Writing for Life class. Applying reading strategies to nonfiction and fiction text. It's going to support those other academic content areas, develop critical thinking skills, develop good note-taking skills, develop inquiry and research skills, and increase your vocabulary, especially in some of those courses that you're going to move into in high school, really to prepare students for that. In 8th grade, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, the balloon expands a little bit for the course offerings that 8th graders have versus 7th graders. So there are more offerings in 8th grade for the world languages. If the student has not taken French 1 in 7th grade or Spanish 1 in 7th grade, they could then take that in 8th grade. A student who would like to switch languages is always a question. If you take French 1 or Spanish 1 in 7th grade, but say 8th grade, I'd like to try German 1, you can certainly do that. So we offer all those level 1 courses that you see there: French, Spanish, German, Italian, and Latin, all at the level 1, and then French 2 and Spanish 2 for those students who completed the first year of the course in 7th grade. Okay, we'll pause there again, Mr. D'Antonio, again, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the schedule.
Yes, we have 2 questions that we're going to answer live. Would a student be able to select German in 8th grade if they took French 1 in 7th grade? And the answer to that is yes, you may. At the beginning, prior to going through course selection, at any point over the course of your middle school or high school career where you're taking languages, if you wanted to switch and take a new language, as long as you made that selection during course selection time, you could make that switch. So example would be a student takes Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 as a 7th and 8th grader. They go through the course selection process as a rising 9th grader, and they select Latin 1. Certainly would be okay. They can do that. And then the other question is, are there 8th grade classes offered over the summer that a student can take to get to a higher level course? The one course that is offered over the summer that the district allows students to take is geometry. That would be, so students who finished Algebra 1 as a 7th grader or an 8th grader could take geometry for what we call original credit over the summertime. And the process for that would be to communicate with your guidance counselor. So for our 7th grade students, that would be Miss Balin, and for our 8th grade students, that would be Mrs. Reisner. Communicate with your guidance counselor of your intention, and then we can work through the details in terms of how to get signed up for that option.
The other question is, what if the student selects a language and there isn't enough students who select that course? What will happen to the schedule? There does need to be a certain amount of students in the class for it to run. So sometimes we do end up having to call, or once all this process finishes at the end of March, we may be contacting your student or you to tell you that maybe German did not have enough students, so they'll have to choose another language.
Thank you, Mr. Marco. Okay, I think, Mr. D'Antonio, you're taking care of some of the other questions in the background, so I think I'm going to move along in our presentation here to look at what a 7th grade schedule would look like. So as you are hopefully aware, students have an 8-period day at Peirce. In 7th grade, or actually I'll just go back to 6th grade. In 6th grade, your students currently have their unified arts classes at the end of the day, and they have lunch 4th period. When we move into 7th grade, students will have 2 courses in their academic area to start the day. Then they'll move to their unified arts periods, 3 and 4. Then they will have lunch, and then they will finish out their day with 3 academic periods. Just an example. This is not how every student's schedule goes. English, American history, it doesn't always run the same script down through. Specific to the unified arts periods 3 and 4, this is just an example of how things would lay out. With 2 blocks, we run a 6-day cycle. So health would take 2 of those days. Phys ed would take 2 of those days. And then the other day would be their music. The other 2 days would be their music. Band 7, chorus 7, orchestra 7, or if you're not in a performing music, then students go into classroom music 7. Those are all 2-day year-long courses. And students must choose a music class, as it says there at the bottom. The other unified arts period are quarterly classes. So they're going to meet every single day for a quarter. You have art, computer science, family consumer sciences, and technology education. Again, not necessarily in that order, but those would be for one of the periods each quarter, one of those courses. When you talk about performing music, all 7th grade rising students do, like I mentioned in the last slide, they must select one of the performing musics or classroom music. So if you're in chorus 6, likely you'll be moving into chorus 7, band 6, band 7, orchestra 6, orchestra 7. Doesn't always go that way, but that is likely how it goes. You can at times move from one ensemble to another in certain situations. They'll perform when you're in these performing musics individually, in small groups, and in ensembles. You do receive a grade, students in all music classes, whether it's one of the performing musics or classroom music. And we have students in the performing music, they should have an interest in improving their singing or playing of an instrument. That's the 7th grade schedule. As I said, 7th grade has more opportunity than 6th grade. And then in 8th grade, as we're kind of expanding towards high school, students have even more choices available to them. A sample 8th grade schedule, they will have their unified arts to start the day, 1st and 2nd period. And then they'll have 3 academic periods, 3, 4, and 5. Then they'll eat lunch, 6th period. And then 7th and 8th, they'll round out with academic classes. So this is where we've really looked in the past couple of years to expand the opportunity for 8th grade students to really dive in more deeply into subject areas that they really are excited to participate in. Our 8th grade unified arts course selection. So we have 2 different areas of 6-day quarterly classes. We have a arts and humanities section where students need to choose 2 of these, and they also need to choose 1 alternate, which they will be able to do in the portal. So they must choose 2 of those plus an alternate. And the other side of things are technology courses. Again, need to choose 2 of these and 1 alternate. Now, the district decided to put culture, cuisine, and connections. I get this question sometimes. Well, why is a cooking class on the technology side of things? Well, there is some chemistry breakdown of food, so that's how it ended up in technology. That it's more a science-based arena. But nevertheless, you must choose 2 from each one of these categories and 1 alternate from each one of those categories. And we really do our best to make sure that the most students can get their interests served. And these courses have been revamped recently, and they're really some exciting offerings. I think it's awesome that the kids get 6 days for a full quarter in these. We used to have 2-day and 4-day classes, and now we're up to 6, and it's great news for kids. There are some 2-day courses still remaining though, and that's the other unified arts period. So one option of this is going to be health for 2 days, PE for 2 days, and then the performing music for 2 days all year long. And those performing musics are chorus 8, band 8, and orchestra 8. You see that Classroom Music 8 is not an option. That is not a course. So that's where we come into option B. You still have your health for 2 days. You still have your PE for 2 days, but students are going to select the tech ed option is how its name pops into the portal. And they will get 2 days of these courses for 1 quarter. So as an example, Teen Impact might be 2 days for quarter 1. And then in quarter 2, that's going to be replaced by internet and web design. In quarter 3, design for the real world for 2 days. And then in quarter 4, digital media creator for 4 days. Again, that's just an example. It is not necessarily going to come in those orders for those courses. Okay, so just to kind of put a button on this, health is a year-long class for 2 days. PE is a year-long class for 2 days. And your performing music is year-long, or the tech ed option, which is each class 2 days a quarter for 1 quarter each for those courses. That's one unified arts period. The other unified arts period are going to be those 6-day electives that your child has chosen. So you would fill out with 2 courses from your arts and humanities and 2 courses from your technology to fill out that. So that's why we say pick 2 and an alternate. I do want to mention that last year when we introduced the alternates, we want to make sure that that 3rd course that you're selecting or your child is selecting is truly an alternate. So if your child has an interest, let's say in art, and they're really big into art, and they pick art in 2D and art in 3D as their 2 selections, but then choose art in 3D as their alternate. Well, if it's not fitting in with their schedule that they get art in 3D, we don't know what course to replace that with as their alternate. And it becomes a little bit of a guessing game to try and track down students to see if we can get them to pick an alternate. And sometimes over the summer, we just have to make our best selection for what we know about the student. So that's why we ask that that alternate be a different course. Mr. D'Antonio, I'm going to stop there before I hop into performing music. Do we have any questions in the background?
We have 2 questions. And question 1 is, are 8th graders able to opt out of music classes and take tech ed? And the answer to that is no. Students would need to select one music, depending whether it be a performing music or the other elective music courses.
So let me just jump in there. So it is going to be the band 8, chorus 8, or orchestra 8. Or if you don't select that, there is no classroom music in 8th grade, so then it would be the tech ed option. That's what goes in the place of that. So that's those 2-day courses each quarter, and that's how that fits in. So you do have to select that tech ed option. It's not a tech course per se. It's just what that's labeled as. But we'll get into it here a little bit with music in just a moment to elaborate on that.
Great. Then we have just a couple more questions. What if the student selects a language and there isn't, we got that one, sorry. Does this mean that if a student isn't in band or chorus, they must pick tech courses?
Well, yeah, if you're not in band or chorus or orchestra, you're going to choose the tech ed option, which is those 2-day courses. However, you still have the option to take a music course, and you still have an option to take a technology education course. And maybe that will fit a little bit better together as we go through some of these screens and show like how that will actually look and come together in some sample options.
Sure. Dr. Batia, next question. Could you please explain a little bit about the Teen Impact class?
A Teen Impact class looks, frankly, looks at being a teen and making good choices and perhaps doing some interview skills. It meets twice a day. It's in our family and consumer science category, if you will. And there's a much better description in our course description guide on that, unless Ms. DeMarco wants to hop in and explain a little bit. But you can really read through all these in that course selection guide for a thorough understanding of that.
Yeah, I think the best thing for all of the different electives, because the different departments have put in what exactly they are, that the course selection guide is your best place to get those. There is a question about, so you cannot participate in orchestra and tech ed. You can, if somebody is in a performing music, remember, so they wouldn't get that tech ed option, which has the teen impact and real world design and all those. But during their elective period, remember, you have to pick 2 from arts and humanities and 2 from the technology classes. Somebody who's an orchestra who also likes technology education could pick will be picking 2 courses from the technology side of the electives.
Correct. Sustainable design, and we'll get back to that one on the other screen. But there are 2 tech ed courses.
Are there coding classes for 8th graders? There is innovative coding. Is that one of which?
That is
section?
a 6-day technology course that students can take as one of their. They can select that as an elective. Yes, innovative coding.
Yes.
Let's see.
Can we get an example of an 8th grade student schedule with the unified arts selection? This is confusing.
Yes.
Is that going to be part of your?
I believe that's later on in the show. Yes, it is very confusing. I live it, so I understand it. But yes, I think there's an example coming here shortly.
I think Mr. D'Antonio is typing an answer for one. If you pick guitar, are you learning to play? Do you need a guitar or experience?
We have guitars. We have
we-
guitars. You don't need experience. The teacher is going to meet you at the level you're at.
You are going to learn to play.
Yeah, and you'll learn some things. It's a really cool course. So, all right, I'm going to dive back in. If we have questions that come along, we'll answer them. And hopefully the schedule that we see, the potential schedule, will make a little more sense. All right, so the performing music, as we mentioned, there's 3 types of performing music: band 8, chorus 8, and orchestra 8. These are folks that want to perform with a group and give concerts. And they are very, very similar to how 6th and 7th grade, if not almost identical. They are elective, which means they're not required. But if you have been in them, we do encourage you to stay in them. Concert chorale for next year will be auditioned at the end of the year, and it will be your homeroom for 8th grade. So orchestra, band, and chorus students can do this. In a couple of instances, some unique instances, it may be possible for students to be enrolled in one performing music.
More than one.
Yes, and more than one. Yes. Excuse me. So then the music electives, if your child is in a performing music, chorus, band, or orchestra, they can select guitar or popular music as 1 or 2 of their 6-day courses. Any student could sign up for that. Even if you're not in a performing music, you can sign up for either or both of these. So you see the example, an 8th grade band student could also be enrolled in guitar and popular music throughout the school year. So great opportunities if you are so inclined. If you don't want to be a performing music, you still have the option to have 2 great music classes that are going to meet and meet that interest of yours. So I'll talk a little bit about the procedure for how it looks on your end in the parent portal. So 6th grade students and parents, you're going to view those recommendations, also the 7th grade parents, from February 14th to 25th. We'll move over to the 6th grade. If you're not recommended for reading, you're going to select the world language or reading through time 7 honors. You're also going to select your music: chorus 7, band 7, orchestra 7, or classroom music 7. So there's 2 selections, 2 elective selections that rising 7th, this current 6th grade class can select, and that's your world language reading and your performing music. In 7th grade, if you're not recommended for reading, you can select the world language of all those offerings we had, or the reading and writing for life grade level class. You're also going to select a music, which is chorus 8, band 8, or orchestra 8, or that tech ed option of those 4 courses that we mentioned earlier. And we're going to see the following slide for some more information on that. That's the February 14th to 25th. So when you look at these, how this logistically lays out, you're going to go and log into the parent portal. And down here, that arrow is pointing. It says class registration link. You can't read it because of the screenshot, but trust me, that's what it says. And then you'll see, it'll say 2022-23 school year. You want to click view course requests. So you can see what has been recommended. This is for a 7th grade student. You'll have the world language option, and then you go in and select your music, world language. You want to make special note that we do have cyber options here so that you're selecting the correct one. So if it's world language reading and you're in brick and mortar setting, you want to make sure you click that, and you would click this pencil over here to open it up. You get a green check mark when that screen has been met, when that requirement has been met. But you do want to click that view course request so you can see those other courses that you've been recommended for those leveled courses in math, or reading if applicable, and English. When you click on that screen to open up for the reading or world language, this is what you'll see. And you'll see before proceeding, click the view course requests on that last screen that I just mentioned to see what you've been recommended for. Again, if your student was recommended for reading, please do not select a world language at this time. It will cause the system to double up requests in that reading or world language block, and we'll have to spend some time chasing that down to clean out one of those requests. If your child was not recommended for reading, that is a de facto opportunity for them to then go ahead and select either the world languages or the reading through time honors class. Music, you'll see the options for 7th grade are the 4 that are there, the 3 performing musics and classroom music. Once you're done, you would click OK, as you see down there on the right. So that's 7th grade. It's pretty simple, tight, easy for 7th grade. Just your music and your world language or reading option. Those are the 2 options you have. 8th grade, I'm sorry, this screen is super small, but there are more selections to be made for 8th grade. So thus, that's why this screen is so small. I tried to stretch it out as best I could. Testing my own eyesight, it says 8th grade world language and reading, 8th grade mathematics, 8th grade cyber performing ensemble. So it's a little bit small, but when you get there, you will be able to select through these. Again, you want to click view course requests when you start. When you open up these screens, this is what you'll see. So again, if your student was recommended to continue with their reading, they should not select a language yet. They should submit a waiver form, which we'll look at in a little bit. If they were not recommended for a reading, then go ahead and select the first year of a language that you'd like. You'll see that in this scenario, a student has not taken French 1 or Spanish 1, so that they're not eligible to take, they have not met the prerequisite to jump into the level 2 course. The bottom of the screen here shows for the student's music selection, it's you select the performing music or the tech ed option, and I will fill in those other 4 courses that go with that tech ed option. These are what the screens look like for those electives that we mentioned, those 6-day electives. So this would just be a screen where you're going to select 2 of them. It is not the alternate screen. There is a separate screen to go in and grab a 3rd class, not one of the 2 that you selected, but a 3rd class, so that make sure we have 2 ones you want and 1 that is an alternate in case we can't get those 2. So the arts and humanities are up here and the technology courses are down here. Okay, I'm going to pause there because that was a lot of information about logistically how that looks and how those piece together. Mr. D'Antonio, do you have any questions that we can answer?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Special education students course selection process. Excuse me. Special education student, the regular education teachers are going to make recommendations for the special education students in their classes. Special education students will be able to view those just like their regular education peers. The IEP needs of students drive what the course selections or the courses needed to meet the needs of those IEPs. And unfortunately, they may take up a spot of some of the unified arts classes. The good news is that we're seeing a lot of success, and the students are getting what they need at the middle school level to prepare them to move forward to be successful, excuse me, be it in later in 7th grade, in 8th grade, or in high school. And it opens the doors so that they have those foundational skills to be able to take more electives as they move through their scholastic career. However, we do still want those students, special education students, to select what they would like. So in the event that they are meeting their goals and are able to take some unified arts electives to replace those courses in special education courses, we know what they'd like to go into. All right. So going kind of circling full circle back here to the timeline. March 7th to 18th, you want to review the recommendations online, and you want to submit any course change forms that you would find in the main office, we have them, or on the website. And check in a couple days after that to see if they're reflected online. Hopefully things are somewhat calm and we don't get snow in mid-March, and they'll be able to be getting in there. And if not, check in with your school counselor or me, and I'll make sure that we get those up as quickly as we can. This is a compacted course waiver, course change form. The left side of this screen, 2 screenshots, is the first page, and the right side is the second page. You'll see that we need all these to be in by Wednesday, March 23rd, in order to start really whittling down to the courses that have been selected, so that we can make sure we properly staff and can get teachers in front of kids for the 22-23 school year. Again, that the course deadline is the 23rd, and we just want to make sure that we don't miss anything, so we can make sure we're getting kids what they need. Wrapping down the home stretch, just to come full circle. Here's the timeline recap. Teachers are already making recommendations starting next week. They're going to start putting those courses in. You can view them from the 14th to the 25th. Dive in there, and you can then make any changes March 7th through the 18th, and that deadline is the 23rd of March. Again, you must be in the parent portal to get in to view those courses. And if you have problems signing into that, we can get you access through our main office. We can get you linked in to make sure that you have your proper login credentials. There you go. The parent portal helps. If you need that, you click forget user, name or password.
Dr. Mattia,
Yes.
if I could direct you to keep an eye on the camera to slow down for the interpretation.
Okay, it's at the very bottom. It wasn't all the way pulled to the top. Sorry, I couldn't see that, Mr. Cromwell. Again, if you need help with logging in, you can call our attendance office, and Ms. Hill will be happy to help you. You can also try on your own if you're struggling with the login, to click forgot user, name or password. And then these are the important contacts for when or if you need help. You can certainly email me, call me. I'm happy to help. Ms. DeMarco is the 6th grade counselor, so she'll be next year's 7th grade counselor. And Ms. Balin is the 7th grade counselor, will be into next year's 8th grade counselor. I think that was it, but I did want to go back. There was a question just about how the schedule looked earlier, and I did want to get back to that. Just for how it might piece together for both 8th grade and 7th grade. So there was a question about how this looks. For 8th grade, it might look like, say, health, PE, and classroom music, or sorry, a performing music first period. And if it was not a performing music, then it could be that tech ed option. And the second period would be those 6-day electives. So you might have art and 2D, quarter 1. Quarter 2 might be family consumer science class. Quarter 3 and quarter 4 would fill out with those 6-day courses. So I know there was a question about that earlier. To go back to the 7th grade schedule, the unified arts block would be very similar. Let's say 7th grade, 3rd period would be art first quarter, a tech ed course 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter would be FCS, and 4th quarter might be art. I think I didn't mention art. So that would be 6-day courses. And then in 4th period in that scenario would be health for 2 days, PE for 2 days, and a performing music or a classroom music for the other 2 days. So I know that was a question earlier. I live it, so it's I kind of piece it together in my brain, but I did want to come back to circle back to that.
Dr. Mattia, when would be the first time that parents can submit their course waiver requests, course change requests?
Well, let's go back to the timeline there. Going backwards here is unique. Whoop, there we are. So they could legitimately start making that once we get into February 14th through February 25th to make those
So
changes.
because that's the first time that they will see the recommendations made by the teachers. So if they see that recommendation and they want to do a change request, they can submit that then.
Absolutely. So you prefer to go into French 1 instead of the reading that you're recommended for, that would be the time to turn that in.
Okay.
Mr. D'Antonio, were there other questions in the background?
Dr. Mattia, we have all the questions answered right now that have come in.
Okay.
So we are, at this point, we're ready to wrap up unless anything else comes through.
Will there, again, at the end of this, there is, there are contact points on there. I would encourage folks to definitely read through the course guide, which is linked on our homepage, and to go through this PowerPoint slideshow with your children. We're also going to be presenting. I'll be presenting to the 6th graders on February 8th, snow permitting, and February 10th for the 7th graders, snow permitting, so that they have an understanding of the courses that are offered and what the process is for them too. But if you have questions along the way, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're all happy to help. And I can speak for me. I'm very, very, very willing to help out.
Great. At this point, we are going to close our program. Like Dr. Mattia said, this program, the slides, as well as the recording, will be available on the Peirce website. Our goal is to have it up by the end of the week. So Friday, January 28th, we would like to have that posted online for folks to be able to reference. I'd like to thank our participants on our panel, Mrs. DeMarco, Mrs. Bradley, Dr. Clifton, Mr. Cromwell, Mrs. Kubiyama, and Dr. Maxwell for joining us this evening. We really appreciate you taking this time out. And then I would like to thank all our families for joining us and spending the evening with us. Hopefully you found it helpful. Please feel free to reach out at any time with any questions. Have a great night.